So, as you can see, it's rather snowy. There's nowhere to go when it's this snowy. Really, it's pretty hard to operate around on deck. And honestly, you get a lot of snow in the shoe, which is not ideal. So we got the old Dickinson drip diesel heater going down below. The coffee just came off the paraffin oil stove. And it seems like as good a time of any to go through my antiquated configuration.nix. I've been on NixOS now for like more than 10 years, and while I've added things and tried all sorts of features, I've slowly made it back to just one file, no flakes, no home manager, because really I only use it on the one machine, and I have had problems where I made it stop working and sailing around without service. It's a huge pain to have to reinstall, because usually I have to download stuff, and we can't do that. So we'll just kind of go through my configuration. Most people know more about this than I do, but because there's so many options, I feel like the more the merrier of this kind of content, where you can look at other people's stuff, see what they've done, get some ideas. So this is what mine looks like currently. I'll open it up, make it a bit bigger here. Here, just so you can see first. I've just got the two files in here. It's easy to... I've just changed the one file. I haven't separated out into separate different modules. Some people like to do that. I mean, with Vim you just search around, so I don't really know if it matters if it's too long or not. It doesn't seem to make any sort of performance difference. So here we go. This is the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. So the first section here is pretty standard. This is what comes with most people's setups. You have some of this around. I do have some questions if people know. Here on this line, I wonder if you have to have X server. I'm on Hyperland, and I don't use X for anything as far as I know, except for the keyboard description later, but I'm pretty sure there's a way to do that in Wayland, so maybe I can get rid of this. The rest of it's pretty normal booting stuff, which I don't know. Current time zone. Some user things, makes me have availability to use network manager, pretty standard. Turned on some virtualization, which I don't really use, and then here's some fun section, which I really don't like. I do not understand how to get Bluetooth to work smoothly on this. It seems to connect to some things and some other things not, so I continually change these settings with no success, but that's what this part's for. Same with this. I kind of tried around a few things with different packages or options to see what sort of things helped with battery life and make things smoother and stuff, and really it seems to work pretty good just doing graphics. I don't really understand these options too much. These kind of get a bit serious, but I've tried with them out. I don't think the battery life changed too much here, and otherwise I don't really do anything fancy in the computer anyway. The next section here is what we're looking at. So I use LY as a login manager. It's kind of cool looking. And then Hyperland is obviously what we're looking at now. So I like that these are services. Here's the section that I was wondering if we could get rid of. I'm not sure if this does very much. This doesn't do anything. I have my escape redone in my Hyperland config to be caps lock, so this didn't work. I just left it, and maybe I can do this with Wayland or something like that. Got a boot screen. Thought it was kind of fun. I remember way back in the day, in like 2006, I remember trying to change the boot, or like the splash screen when you booted up Ubuntu, like Heron or something, and I broke it so many times trying to like change stuff from the low level thing. So the fact that you can just change it here is very satisfying, so I have it for that reason. This, we just have do as instead of sudo. The same thing. This seems like an easy thing to change on NixOS. You just add this stuff in there and done deal. Sudo doesn't work, and now I've had it for like 10 years, and so I can't get used to typing sudo anymore. Here's the power stuff. I fiddled with this a little bit and really haven't found too big of a difference, but this is what it looks like currently. Here's the sound stuff. This is pretty standard. I'm thinking this is what most people have as their setup. And then this is where it gets kind of more personal, obviously. So I've tried to do a few of the main things I use all the time in the main programs I use all the time, I've tried to do them the Nix way inside of this file, so I don't have to fiddle with less if things go wrong. So I use ZSH as the shell. I'm just used to it. These I've just remapped. They're like little search scripts, so I have using Fuzzy Finder, as you can see here. I use this to kind of just open config files up quickly, and then this is the same but for documents, and then this is the same but to open up this file. Otherwise, pretty standard stuff. VI mode, of course, in ZSH, and the arrow, kind of a nice, simple, gets the job done. The next one is Firefox. This is kind of a big section here. I just sort of realized you could do this not too long ago, so this is kind of nice. I don't really change Firefox too much. I keep it pretty simple, but I like that I can have the extensions installed from default, because I know, if you do a fresh install anywhere or something, you always have to kind of do a few things. So I like that you can do the vertical tabs in here. A while ago, I remember that was a whole CSS thing you had to fiddle around with and remember whose GitHub thing you put where in what file and yada yada, and it would always seem different. So this is cool. I like that it's built in, and I like that the extensions install pretty straightforward. You can turn off some of the traffic tracking things, and what's not to like. The next section is NeoVim, essentially confirmed in here. This is my VimRC from like 15 years ago, and I've pretty much not changed it at all, except for throw a color scheme or two in here every once in a while when I get bored of whatever I'm looking at. So currently it's on Grovebox, but I like the Everforest one is pretty nice too, and so sometimes I use this one. And none of these are specifically or particularly interesting. Really, I have not fiddled with this very much. Now looking at people's NeoVim configs, it's hectic. There's like whole files and programs and different config Lisp stuff. I don't understand any of that. I've had the same one. I just figured out how to paste it essentially in a custom RC option. I'll go through this at a different point. Might as well make a different video, show you how I use that. And then here's the list of applications I have on the computer. We'll go through them real fast. Hugo makes the websites. That's pretty much the project I'm working on with the old rebuild of the Sail blog. OBS records the screen. I've been on Hyperland for a little bit here, but I used Xmonad for years and years, and Mango, I saw the other day, has a few features that Xmonad I had built into the complicated mess that was, and so I'm sort of curious about this. Maybe I'll make a video of idiot tries to fiddle with Mango with no experience, because I'm not very good at doing this whole configuration thing. Usually I just break stuff and get frustrated. So that might be interesting. But I'm kind of curious about that. That's why that's there. Nix Search CLI, I like this a lot. So to find things you can install on NixOS, you can go to their website, but I kind of like doing it in the terminal. So like as an example, now you can just do, I'll make this bigger here real fast. Like if we wanted to do DaVinci, see, it shows up nice and easy in the terminal for the packages, and then you would just throw whatever you want in your list of applications here and rebuild. So I use that pretty often. dmenu, I use this as the launcher. Pretty standard. This has been around for ages. I think there's a Wayland version. Maybe I should switch to that. Then I use it also as the network manager. Waybar, that's the bar at the bottom. MPV Classic for videos. I like this browser for when I'm not watching videos but reading or something. Timeshift. Use this for backup things. I can probably actually get rid of that. Ready to open this read-only? Oh well. Sway background is what I use for the background, along with Waypaper. I do not like Hyper Paper. It's kind of dumb. Doesn't seem to work. Glitches. Goes back and forth. You can't reset it quickly, so I just use these two. It works good. Hypershot takes screenshots. This is the continual bane of my existence with another way to do Bluetooth stuff. The interface is nice, but I think it's some back level stuff is wrong. Kitty is the terminal I use. PCI utils and DNS mask I think are two programs that enable some pretty standard like LSBLK type commands that I use pretty often and don't come packaged by default in NixOS, so they're just thrown in there for that. GoTop, it's like HTOP but in Go. People seem to use BTOP now. I just had this one here for a few years. Nemo. Ooh, I don't actually know what that is. Let's find out. Oh, classic. File manager. Probably don't need that either, because I like to use this. Yazzie. Works really well. I like that the image previews just work. I didn't have to patch anything in there like you used to with Ranger and stuff like that. FCF, this is what I was showing earlier. So as an example, if I wanted to open my Hyperland config to fiddle with something, instead of going like, and then remembering, you know, or whatever, I could just type this and then start typing and it opens, which is pretty sweet. Lots of people have cooler setups for that, but that's pretty much how you do that with that and documents. Kdenlive, classic video editing. It's pretty hard to live without it on Linux. This is for the Linux ISOs, of course. WireMix is what I'm using for my volume control. But I'm not really sure if I like it as much as I do Pulse Mixer, which I've used for years. I just thought I'd change it. I'm pretty sure this is what gives me the ability to use the buttons, volume control, same with this, and brightness, the ones that are built in on the laptop. CMOS, I don't know why more people don't use this. They use all these fancy daemons and things for music. This is the simplest music player. You move around like this, uses Vim keys. You tab and then you go over here and you just go to 5 and you hit A for what folders you want to be listed in this, and it just works. I don't know why you want it to do anything else. Really fast, easy. You can make playlists and things. I don't do that. I just hit play or not. Kava, cool bouncing bars for if you're playing music, and down here on my way bar I've got a little Kava thing, so if something is playing you can see like a cool equalizer. So Thorough opens PDFs among other things. Text Live and types to do document things, pretty classic. GNOME boxes. I got really annoyed with the KVM manager thing one day, and so I did this instead, and this is something that, again, like the PCI utils, adds some classic Linux useful like commands back in that I feel like I got used to before I was on NixOS. The last section here is the fonts. I just kind of threw these extra ones in here. All the fonts you see are the Ubuntu fonts. I kind of like what they look like, especially smaller in the way bar here, and they look pretty nice in the terminal as well. I used to use Tamison. I think it looked like SYN, like that. But for some reason, every time I install this font and its derivatives, it doesn't show up anywhere, and I can't set it in KDE config or in the way bar, so I've stopped trying and I'm just sticking with the Ubuntu fonts. And the last section is the system state version. I used to have a custom, or like the most up-to-date bleeding edge kernel in here as well, as being on the unstable channel, but one time that got rid of even my generation manager on boot by accident, and so I've stopped doing that. I don't really have any benefits. I'm not doing anything fancy. So that's pretty much it. There's nothing else really going on here. These are all the programs that I use. I'll make a different video on the Vim thing at some point. Yeah, maybe you'll learn something. Probably not.